Shocking truth of humanity, what happened 4.7 million years ago at midnight? As the clock struck midnight, 4.7 million years ago, a deafening silence blanketed the earth. Trees swayed gently, brushing their leaves against one another as if whispering secrets of an ancient prophecy. But beneath the canopy, beneath the soil, a disturbing truth pulsed through the earth's veins. A series of chaotic events, volcanic eruptions so fierce they painted the sky with shades of orange and purple, rivaling the greatest fireworks displays of modern times, took place. Lush jungles turned to ash, and towering mountains crumbled like cookie crumbs. What had spurred such catastrophic change? Was it nature? Or was it something much darker? Among the fallen branches and remnants of what used to be liveliness, strange skeletons of creatures long forgotten lay buried, their bones shrouded in mystery. Why did these once mighty beasts perish in such unusually high numbers? They seemed to have vanished overnight, leaving behind eerie silence in once thriving habitats. And then there were the whispers of the glowing embers, flickering lights caught in the darkness, almost as if they were the spirits of those lost, trying to tell their tales. Did they signify an ancient warning, a precursor to humanity's future? Days passed, shifting into years, and with each tick of the clock, something unexplainable unfolded. As if the earth itself bled stories of humanity's origin, artifacts emerged, sharp tools crafted with astonishing precision, hinting at skills far beyond what was thought possible for that time. How did early hominins master such techniques? Who taught them? The very ground where they stood intertwined with the unknown, reverberating with secrets waiting to be uncovered. But then came the chilling realization. People, the creatures that stood a mere foot or two taller than their counterparts, had begun to take their first steps. Their wide, childlike eyes sparkled with curiosity, always looking towards the horizon, yet deep down, they sensed the lurking danger. Did they feel the weight of their ancestry? What extraordinary experiences shaped their path as they fumbled through the remnants of extinction and chaos? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The curiosity hung in the air like a dense fog, thick, suffocating, and alive. With every flicker of light and shadow cast by the dying embers, the haunting question grew louder: what lay hidden beneath layers of time just waiting to be uncovered? Just when you thought the past had been silenced, the echoes of these ancient secrets pulled you back to face whatever cosmic truth awaited in the dark. The earth seemed to shiver as a new dawn approached, the light penetrating the veil of uncertainty that cloaked the remnants of chaos. The early hominins emerged, fragile yet resolute, moving tentatively through their transformed world. Each step on the ash-coated ground sent up tiny clouds, particles swirling in the morning sunlight, illuminating the shadows of their ancestors. But there was something else in the air now, a prickling awareness of a presence lurking just beyond their immediate vision. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed from the direction of the distant mountains, like the growl of a beast stirring to life. The creatures instinctively paused, their hearts pounding in sync, fear tangling tightly with curiosity. A quiet shudder traveled through the very soil beneath them, vibrating like a heartbeat in the condensed silence. What could it mean? Were the volcanoes waking once again, or was it something more ominous? The little group, perhaps a dozen in all, began to move with caution, collecting their newfound tools, sharp stones and sticks they could wield like weapons. Their wide eyes darted from shadow to shadow, trying to decipher the shapes that danced along the edges of their perception. Various colors leaped across the ground, but the blood red and deep black of ash remained most prominent. The air was heavy with the scent of charred earth and something else strange, metallic, like an omen. As they navigated through the remnants of fallen giants, they stumbled upon a scene that sent chills racing down their spines: bizarre symbols carved into the bark of a long-dead tree. Spirals and jagged lines intertwined, almost pulsating with an energy that felt otherworldly, ancient, mark-making by an unknown civilization, or perhaps the work of a restless spirit. The marking seemed almost to beckon them closer, as if they held a truth locked within point. One of the bravest among them, a young woman with intuition as sharp as her tools, approached the carvings. She traced them with trembling fingers, feeling them rattle through her bones. In that moment, the memory surfaced, a tale spoken by the elder, dripping with dread, a warning of great change. But what was that change? Were these symbols meant to guide them, or were they a cursed invitation, urging them to delve deeper into the unknown? Without warning, the ground shook again, more violently this time. A deep fissure split the landscape before them, smoke pouring forth, leading like a serpentine trail into the sky. The once distant mountains now loomed closer, and a bright orange glow spilled from the rift, illuminating the faces of the hominins with a ghastly light. Fear transformed their curiosity into a primal instinct to survive. Rushing back from the precipice of chaos, they collided with one another, their hearts trembling in sync with the earth's heartbeat. All thoughts of glory melted away in the realization that this awakening brought more than just ascension. With insecurity clawing deep within, they questioned the fabric of their existence. Who were they really? And what kind of legacy would they leave? With the darkness of the rift behind them and questions echoing through their minds, they turned to gaze across the chaotic landscape once again. The silhouettes of their ancestors danced on the horizon, beckoning them to uncover the revelations hidden within the earth, proud guardians of a truth far too powerful to ignore, but unknown to them. A pair of eyes watched from the shadows, a figure cloaked in whispers who had awaited this very moment. What secrets would unfurl from the enigmatic depths of the rift? As the warmth of the sun began to slip away, the air thickened with promise and peril, ready to unveil the next chapter of humanity's tale. The air felt charged as the hominins huddled together, fear wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. The rift gaped open like a wound in the earth, and they could see the flickering dance of orange flames within its depths. It was both mesmerizing and terrifying. The glow cast eerie shapes on their faces, illuminating the mounting dread in their eyes. What if it's a warning? One of the men whispered, his voice trembling as he glanced sideways at the young woman, still entranced by the symbols. No, she replied, her gaze unwavering, heart racing as if synced to the vibrations of the trembling ground. It's a call. Before they could protest, she took a step closer to the edge, ensnared by a pull they all felt but could barely comprehend. The symbols, still alive in her memory, whispered stories long forgotten. She could almost see the ancient hands that had crafted each line, feel the weight of their meaning. Behind them, the others shook their heads. Don't. We shouldn't get too close. Another voice, low and desperate, echoed through the chaos, breaking into the rhythm of their emotions, but curiosity wrestled against fear. The presence they felt, lurking so close, was driving them forward, a primal urge to discover what lay hidden in the depths below. Suddenly, the ground quaked again, this time more violently. A burst of ash exploded upwards, blurring their vision. They stumbled back, grappling with their balance, but the whirling mass revealed something else, the gleam of something metallic glistening among the debris. What is that? A younger member of the group gasped, pointing toward the strange object half buried in the ash. Eyes darted back and forth, unsure whether to inspect it or flee. It was a risk they could neither ignore nor embrace. As tension wound tighter, the young woman broke away from the group and brushed aside the ash with her hands. Each clump revealed more of the object, until finally, a glint caught the fading light, a shard of metal, intricately engraved with the very symbols they had seen on the tree. Her heart raced as the reality hit. This wasn't just a piece of metal, it was a link, a tangible connection to those who had come before them. What stories had been locked away inside it? What perils had they faced? The others gathered around, their fear giving way to a mounting sense of urgency and wonder. Just as they began to touch it, the rift roared again, releasing a plume of ash and smoke that enveloped them in a choking fog. Their feet shuffled backward, panic settling in. Run! Shouted one of the men, pulling the group away from the rift's malevolent glow. They turned and fled, driven by instinct, hearts hammering against their chests as they imagined the earth splitting apart behind them. They stumbled across the ash-covered terrain, gasping for air, the color of their world dimming to a murky gray with each desperate breath. But as they retreated, the sound of something breaking through the noise met their ears, a voice, piercing through the chaos, calling to them, demanding their return. "Come back. You must see this." The words hung heavy in the air, and as their instincts battled against their desire to flee, a powerful clash swirled within them. Was the voice a summoning or a trap? Finally, driven by a force beyond comprehension, they turned back toward the rift. But in that moment, only shadows awaited them. What lay in the dark? Who had called out to them? As they stood on the brink of the unknown, doubt gnawed at their guts and the rift pulsed, eager for their return. The moment had come. Would they dare to step closer? The shadows twisted and turned, each shifting figure teetering on the edge of human understanding. The young woman felt her heartbeat in her throat, a mix of dread and exhilarating curiosity flooding her senses. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, glancing over her shoulder at the others. They hesitated, measuring the risks against the eerie pull that beckoned them back to the rift. Could the voice they heard belong to someone trapped, or was it just a cruel trick of the chaos surrounding them? A man stepped forward, squinting into the darkness. "We should at least see who's there." His voice cracked with eagerness, underscoring the universal struggle between fear and the hunger for knowledge. "We could get hurt. Or worse." Another shouted, eyes darting anxiously from the glow to the steep edge of the rift. The ashen ground felt unstable, shifting beneath their feet as the rift breathed with life. The young woman was entranced by the symbols dancing like whispers in the air. They spoke promises and mysteries only she could understand. "I need to see what lies beneath," she murmured, her determination laid bare. She edged closer, her hands trembling as she reached out tentatively. Beneath the soft ashen surface, she could feel the warmth radiating from the metallic shard. It was more than an artifact, it pulsed with an energy that felt ancient and awake, a heartbeat echoing against her palms. But as the others debated, the ground trembled again, this time shaking with a furious intensity. The rift suddenly roared, like a wild beast awakening from slumber. The voices around them faded, swallowed by the chaos. "Everyone, grab onto something." A member barked, just as the ground beneath them cracked open, threatening to swallow them whole. Chaos erupted as they reached for one another, some slipping and falling into the thick gray dust, hands grasping at nothing and struggling to breathe. The voice that had called out earlier morphed into a cacophony of screams, blending with the thunder of the rift's fury. In that blinding moment of panic, the young woman felt the shard jerk away from her fingers, slipping deeper into the rift. "No," she shouted, lunging forward, but powerful currents of ash and smoke shoved her back, wrapping around them like chains, confusing her senses. It was proof of their insignificance, the world reminding them of their fragile existence. But in the fog, her heart whispered again, urging her to dive toward the truth that beckoned. Suddenly, in the haze, a figure emerged, a silhouette silhouetted against the raging light. A woman. Yes, a woman. Was she real? "Don't run. You have to help me." Her voice, filled with desperation, cut through the chaos like a shard of glass. It ringed with an echo of familiarity, almost as if they shared a bond forged through time. The others hesitated. Who was she? Friend or foe? "Stay back." One of the men shouted, losing his grounding, panic cracking the veneer of bravery. As doubt rippled through them, the young woman felt something shift deep within. This figure could be the key, a vital thread connecting their past to the present. Would they allow fear to rule them once more? "Please." Came the voice again, more urgent, pulling them forward. The darkness loomed, pressing against them, and the rift shimmered like a living heartbeat. The moment hung in the air. Would they dare to step into the unknown and confront the truth that waited just beneath the surface? And with that, they took a collective breath, teetering on the edge of a decision that could alter everything. What awaited them beyond the rift? The young woman edged closer, heart racing, torn between instinct and terror. "We can't just stand here," she urged, her voice rising above the din. The figure's eyes glinted like stars trapped in a nightmare, urging her with what she could only interpret as a plea, a tether to something lost and desperately sought. Another tremor coursed through the ground, sharp and violent, and with it came a low growl from the rift. "We need to help her," she shouted, looking at the man who had first stepped forward. He hesitated, muscles tensed, battling with fear. But something within her, a steely resolve, demanded action. In that moment, the world around them felt less like chaos and more like a living entity, alive, breathing, and aware of their presence. The air crackled, filled with static energy. She could feel it prickling against her skin, urging her to trust the voice. "Come on. If she's really in there, then she needs us." Her words seemed to pierce through the panic like an arrow, igniting something in the group. "Okay," the man finally relented, clenching his jaw as he moved closer to the edge. They all shared a single, silent understanding, a mix of hesitation and determination. No longer were they simply observers, they were players in this dark theater. Before they could change their minds, she stepped into the rift, feeling the metallic pulse of the shard resonate with her. It was more than a voice, it was a call, a gravity pulling her toward the light. She barely noticed when the others followed suit, their hands clasped, solidifying their collective bravery against the fragility of their existence. Suddenly, warmth enveloped her as they crossed an unseen threshold. The sensation was overwhelming, as if the rift was swallowing them whole and knitting them into its fabric. They fell into a strange space where shadows twisted into shapes that danced around them. "Where are we?" someone gasped, their voice trembling in the surreal air. A kaleidoscope of colors flashed before them, swirling like a whirlpool of memory. The familiar forms of the group blurred, indistinct against the backdrop of vibrant energy. "It feels like something is here," the woman replied softly, the words escaping from her lips as if summoned by the very essence surrounding them. She peered ahead, and the distant figure of the woman flickered in and out, a ghost in a disconnected realm. "I can't see her," someone exclaimed. Anxiety grew, filling the air thickly like fog. What if this is all a trap? The young woman pressed forward, her own fears dashed by a growing sense of purpose. "We can't leave her," she called out, driven by a determination that burned deep within her soul. As they drew nearer, the figure solidified into form, revealing familiar features. The woman had striking features that echoed the young woman's own, a shared lineage, perhaps. "Help me," she implored again, her voice ringing with desperation. It was then the young woman clutched her head, whispers invasion, the voices of her childhood, a forgotten past cresting like a wave. The eerie connections raced within her. If this was truly a part of her, she could feel an unsettling truth buried deep in her bones. "Sister," she breathed, realization dawning. "Is it really you?" Before she could utter another word, the vibrant colors shifted again, darkening around them, casting shadows of dread upon their hearts. The ground beneath them trembled violently, and an echoing scream rent the air as the rift surged with a hunger that was palpable, primal. "Hold on!" shouted the man she had been standing beside, fear rippling through his voice. As they faced the darkness encroaching upon them, the frantic chaos of choice loomed like a tidal wave. Would they anchor themselves and seek salvation, or would they be swept into an abyss of uncertainty? The pulse of the shard quickened, throbbing with urgency, as if urging them to act before the abyss consumed them. Breath hitching, they readied themselves. The moment had come. What truth lay buried beneath the flood of shadows, waiting to be unearthed? The air twisted ominously around them, shadows coiling and weaving like serpents, eager to ensnare. The young woman's heart raced as she felt the warmth drain from the space, leaving only frigid uncertainty. "Keep moving," she urged, pushing through the tide of doubt. Every instinct screamed for them to retreat, but her sister's pleading echoed in her mind, a desperate melody urging her to forge ahead. "Do you feel that?" a voice quivered beside her. "It's so cold." As they pressed on, the ground surged beneath their feet, undulating violently. Clumps of color splattered like paint against a canvas, each flash revealing fragments of memories not entirely her own. Laughter echoed, mingling with echoes of pain, visions of joy twisting into despair. She stumbled, reflexively reaching out for the nearest hand her friend grabbed tight, grounding her even as anxiety flared alarmingly. "Are we in her mind?" he whispered, eyes wide with disbelief, scanning the chaotic landscape. "Is this real?" Before she could respond, the shadows moved again, jittering and writhing as tendrils shot toward them, dark and eager. A chilling wind whipped through the rift, whispering secrets, a cacophony of ancient voices swirling like a storm. "Focus!" she shouted, frustration bubbling as the sights began to blur. "If that's really her up ahead, we can't lose her. We have to push through." Each step was a battle, but with each movement, the figure grew clearer, glowing with an ethereal light that shone against the encroaching darkness. She felt the shard pulsing with her heart, aligning as if it were part of her very being. "Help me!" Her sister's voice, tinged with desperation, broke through the tumult, driving her further forward. "You have to help me, please." Suddenly, the ground shook violently, splitting open in a wide crack that swallowed bright colors, pulling them into the nascent void. An anguished scream echoed through the air, wrenching her gut as her sister began to falter, the light wavering against the monstrous dark. "No!" the young woman screamed, reaching out, fingers stretching desperately toward the fading glow. The scream wasn't just hers, it filtered through the others, merging into a haunting symphony of fear that reverberated like thunder in the suffocating silence. With renewed strength, she lunged forward, gripping her friend's arm. "We can't let her go. She's part of us." Another tremor rippled, stronger than before, flinging them back with a force that constricted their chests. The rift howled, the wind screeching as shadows spun faster, blurring their vision, making it harder to stay grounded. Panic spread like wildfire, uncertainty coursed through each of them. "This can't be all there is," someone shouted, laced with despair. "We have to find a way out. Stay. Don't give in," she pleaded, resolute. "Touch the shard, feel its pulse. It's binding us, it's our connection. Don't let this consume us." As their hands found the shard, heat rushed through them, merging hearts and hopes, anchoring them against the rising tide of darkness. The pulse grew frenzied, pushing away the cold, chasing shadows into the recesses. Then, with a flash of brilliant light, the glow of her sister pierced the void, the edges of her form hardening, illuminating the shadows that lingered hungrily. "Help me!" she cried again, the words laced with urgency, an echo of a past tethered to the present. The world twisted. Everything felt like a dream, a living nightmare that refused to yield. The young woman's heart fluttered in anxious rhythm. They were on the precipice of destruction, but also revelation. Just beyond the shimmer of her sister lay answers, fractured truths shrouded in darkness. With another scream from the abyss, it surged forward like a malice-filled beast, wind whipping against them. "Find her. Don't give up," she roared, the echo rippling against the shadows. But what revelation awaited them? What emergent reality loomed beneath that silvery light, waiting to ensnare their very souls? The shadows roared, a turbulent chorus of despair and anger as the light flickered, casting erratic shapes that twisted in grotesque forms. The trembling figures dove deeper into the churning depths, their connection to the shard turning electric. "Push!" she cried out again, desperation thrumming through her voice as she felt herself pulled in every direction. The darkness threatened to consume not just the physical realm but something far more profound, a piece of their collective identity. Her eyes remained locked on the source of the light, the outline of her sister. It flickered, but it didn't fade. If it faltered, they all might drift into the shadows, evaporating into the depths, lost forever. "How is she still?" her friend began, but she couldn't focus on the question hanging in the air. Their hands were clasped tightly around the shard, its heat pulsed against their palms, fierce and unyielding. It grounded them, tethering fear to resolve. "Together," she urged as they braced for another onslaught of darkness. The ground grumbled, deep fissures spreading, but they pushed back, hearts sinking with the rhythm of the shard. Each pulse echoed like a war drum, marching them forward. "Let me in." The plea resonated within her soul as if the very fabric of their beings urged her toward the light. Another howl pierced the air, an entity of darkness that craved, that yearned for their despair. "I'm coming." She breathed heavy, and the air crackled with tension. The world twisted again, pulling every emotion into focus: hope, fear, heartbreak. With every inch closer to her sister, bubbles of trepidation mixed with glimmers of potential reunions flared within her gut. "We have to believe," someone shouted, drawing strength from the chaos. "Believe in each other." The shadows shrieked. Tendrils whipped closer, encircling them, constricting, the icy grip of fear gnawing at their resolve. But still, she held tight, unwilling to allow doubt to crack their tenuous bond. With a final lurch of terror, she leaped, stretching out her fingers toward the fading visage. The moment felt suspended in time, and her heart roared. The cacophony of the world around them faded into a single note: hope. Bright light exploded where their fingertips grazed the edges of her sister's form. The shadows recoiled, screeching in agony at the brightness. It illuminated the faces of her friends, their fear momentarily replaced with a fierce determination. "Don't let go," she shouted as she felt the ground tremble beneath them once more. The abyss roared, thrashing against their newfound resolve. They hurled themselves toward the light, willing the darkness to dissipate, to be exposed for what it was, nothing but a facade. That in an instant, the shadows surged forward, writhing and twisting, cloaking them in despair. It felt impossibly heavy, suffocating. And then, everything shifted. The lights coalesced, her sister's silhouette grew sharper, blinding, and she was there, reaching back. Suddenly, she felt it, a shift in the air. The pulse of the shard began to synchronize with her heartbeat, a rhythm that resonated deep within her, anchoring and empowering all at once. "Fight with me." Her sister's voice cut through the chaos, so close now. The shadows hesitated, recoiling as if faced with a light too bright to tackle. The trembling ground stilled as little pockets of color began to pierce through the darkness, like flowers blooming in a field of gray. What began as a desperate fight felt like a reclamation. What was lost could be regained, and the realization ignited something fierce within each of them. But then, just as they thought they'd succeeded, the shadows surged, roaring like a beast awakening from its slumber. "No!" she gasped as the rift widened, swallowing colors and light, intent on dragging them back into the void. "Hold on!" her friend shouted, bracing himself against the pull, nails digging into the earth. What horror would spill from that yawning chasm? The very essence of their being hung in the balance. Would they be able to conquer this darkness, or would they fall victim to it? The questions pounded in her mind as they fought against the force that threatened to tear them apart. Could they hold on to their sanity? Or would this journey lead to irreversible loss? The answers loomed just ahead, tantalizing and terrifying. What untold truths lurked in the shadows, waiting for them to uncover? She felt the ground slip beneath her feet, a dizzying void pulling at the edges of her soul. Panic surged through her like ice water, freezing her thoughts. The dark rift widened with a malicious appetite, threatening to consume everything in its path. She grasped tighter onto the shard, its fiery pulse igniting a flicker of resolve deep within her chest. "Look!" her sister's voice ignited hope, slicing through the noise around them. "It's getting weaker." Against the cacophony, shadows twisted, wailing and thrashing, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. The light surrounding her sister flickered like a candle overwhelmed by a storm, yet it fought on, pushing back against the advancing darkness. For a moment, everything felt suspended in that electric air: a desperate heartbeat, shared breaths, and whispered prayers. "Together!" she shouted again, determined to keep their thoughts aligned. "We are stronger than this. We have the light." The shadows surged, their bodies like dark serpents, coiling around the warmth they provided. Each inch gained felt like victory, but then the darkness screeched, a chorus of despair that rattled their bones and sent chills racing down their spines. It pounded against her, a raw force threatening to rend the connection they clung to. "Don't break!" she urged, voice trembling but fierce. This is our moment. Remember who we are. A ripple of recognition swept through them, the weight of their shared memories, laughter, sorrow, and dreams. They were bound by more than a single moment, they were threads woven into the fabric of something much grander, but just as they found their footing, an explosion of shadow erupted from the rift. Tendrils lashed out, swallowing color and light in their path. One struck her friend, and he stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. No. Her heart pounded as she reached out to him, feeling the fragile fibers of their bond snap like thin string under pressure. Stay with us. The moment stretched painfully, adrenaline rushing through her like fire. Never had she felt so utterly helpless, yet so fiercely protective. Shadows flared and shrieked, as though angry at her defiance. Come back. She cried, desperation clawing at her throat. But the void was pulling him, dragging him toward an abyss that promised nothing but darkness. In that instant, she remembered a secret they had all kept hidden, a truth that tied them to the shard. They were the reflectors of their inner strength and hopes, keys to unlocking powers they had yet to understand. With a rush of clarity, she felt a surge of energy, an unyielding grip on the shard they had shared. Release your fears. She commanded, her voice simmering with defiance. Harness the pain. Turn it into light. A blinding white surged from the shard, radiating through her fingers, extending to the rest. She felt her friends draw closer, eyes alight with a newfound strength. The shadows wailed, recoiling at the intensity of their unity. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled, cracking as if splitting the world in two. But they held firm, the shard glowing brighter, illuminating the darkness with blinding clarity. Break free. She urged, feeling the warmth embrace them, guiding them toward their sister's light. With a deafening roar, the shadows began to dissipate, fading like smoke in the wind. But as the pressure eased, something unexpected shifted. The rift deepened, pulling at the lines of fate that connected them. What is happening? Her sister cried, eyes wide as the light dimmed once more, mixing fear with hope. You have to trust me. She gripped the shard tighter, refusing to let the light fade. We're not done. We'll find a way. And then, the world became a kaleidoscope of colors, swirling and flashing as the remnants of the darkness clung on, tenacious and relentless. They had battled darkness, but what lay ahead was yet a greater unknown, deeper questions that demanded answers. Was this fight only the beginning? Or had they unwittingly unleashed a force far worse than they could ever imagine? The echoes of their fears fluttered in her chest as the swirling light threatened to consume them alive. What was waiting for them beyond this tantalizing, terrifying brink? The vibrant whirlwind of colors began to settle, and as the brightness softened, she could see the rift had shifted, twisting into something more intricate, almost beautiful. But beauty often concealed danger, didn't it? Her heart raced as she tried to read the swirling patterns, searching for a hint of hope, a sign they had emerged victorious. Instead, dread curled around her like thick fog. Stay close. She shouted, breaking the stillness that followed the chaos. The ground still trembled beneath them, a low growl echoing through the air. Shadows lingered at the edges of their vision, dark tendrils twitching, waiting for their moment to strike. The shard pulsed in her hand, a warm reminder of the power they wielded together. We need to focus. Hold on to the memories. She closed her eyes briefly, feeling the surge of warmth from her sister's light intertwined with the glow of the shard. It was a tether, a lifeline. Yet as she opened her eyes, she noticed the people around them, friends and allies. Each face was marked by confusion and fear. Uncertainty twisted in the air, thick and tangible, a shared anxiety that threatened to unravel their unity. What do we do now? Her friend asked, terror flickering across his features. Did we really save him? It's not just about saving him, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. It's about understanding what lies ahead. Just then, the rift pulsated, sending out a shockwave that pushed her backward. The tips of her fingers throbbed with pain as she struggled to maintain her grip on the shard. The ground split open again, but this time something crawled out. A gaunt figure emerged from the darkness, cloaked in the shadows they had fought against. The world around them stilled as fear grasped their hearts. "Do you really think you can banish me?" The figure rasped, its voice a chilling whisper, echoing inside their psyche. "You are but sparks, flickering in the vast darkness. You think you wield light, but you are merely amplifying the shadows." Her stomach dropped. "What are you?" she demanded, steeling herself against the palpable dread. "An echo of what once was," came the reply, "and what will always be." The figure began unraveling, shifting into shapes of long-lost memories, haunting imagery of laughter turned to screams, moments of joy tainted with despair. She saw flashes of their childhood, innocent moments that twisted grotesquely into horrors. Every conflict, every broken promise, painted vividly against the backdrop of their lives. "No!" she shouted, holding the shard tightly to her chest, drawing strength from its warmth. "We are not defined by our past." Laughter erupted from the figure, a sound that shattered the air. "But you are. Every fear, every regret, welcome to your truth. Here, you will face the reality you have tried to escape." With a snap of its fingers, the visions grew sharper, darker. Memories of betrayal, deceit, and guilt flooded in, clickable images like a projector broken free of its restraints. She staggered, feeling the weight of their shared burdens crush her, squeezing the breath from her lungs. "Fight it!" her sister screamed. "We can't let it control us. Together!" she yelled back, feeling the bond strengthen with every word. "Remember who we are. Remember what we've fought for." They surrounded the shard, hands clasped, hearts beating as one. As they focused, the light began to rise, a solid beacon against the choking darkness. But the figure stepped closer, its eyes burning with the malevolence of 1,000 regrets. "You think mere light can dispel the truth? You haven't even seen the beginning." In that moment, reality splintered, crashing around them like shattered glass. It was a warning, ominous and sharp, of what lay hidden beneath their bravado. As fear crept back in, she realized the fight was changing, evolving. "Brace yourselves," she urged, feeling terror coil within her as the edges of the rift started to break apart, a fury of swirling darkness demanding to be seen. What more lay in wait within the shadows? Who were they truly meant to fight against? When the darkest shadows often resided within themselves. The darkness howled as the rift quaked violently, echoing their fears, their regrets, and their unspoken truths. The figure loomed closer, distorted yet familiar, a specter of everything they had tried to outrun. The air grew thick and heavy, drowning them in memories they wished to forget. Panic surged like a wildfire among the group, it felt like the ground was about to swallow them whole. "Stand firm," the young woman shouted, gripping the shard tightly. "This is our moment to change everything. We are not defined by our fears." Each pulse of the shard radiated warmth, a heartbeat intertwining with theirs. With a collective sigh, they closed their eyes and focused, envisioning the light they had forged together. As they did, a shimmering aura began to emanate from the shard, illuminating the shadows that encroached upon them. The eyes of the figure flickered with uncertainty for the first time, uncertainty that gave them courage. "Let us confront it," she said resolutely, feeling every breath tighten their bond. "We need to face our past to reclaim our future. We can do this." Her friend countered, standing resolutely at her side. "We've come too far to back down now." The air shuddered with the weight of their determination. Together, they stepped forward, willing the bright light of the shard to expand, banishing the specter before them. The darkness writhed, but they held tight. Suddenly, the figure shrieked, a sound that pierced through them, full of anger and despair. "You think you can silence me? You cannot escape what you are." As the shadows twisted and clawed at their resolve, a pinprick of bright light cut through the darkness. They each felt the memories rushing back, their childhood laughter, moments of joy, filled with hope that had been draped in shadow for too long. With every piece that surfaced, the fabric of their connection tightened. "You won't tear us apart. Another shouted, as the memories of unity fueled their courage, every ounce of love, anger, happiness, and sorrow flooded back into focus, each moment crystallizing into strength. The figure stumbled for the first time, uncertainty swirling within its depths. No. You cannot. Yes, we can. They shouted as one, hearts synchronizing in an explosive surge of light. The rift pulsed wildly, shadows faltered, desperately clawing, but the warmth of their collective light engulfed them. With a deafening roar, the shadows recoiled, unraveling into the ether as the figure disintegrated into nothingness. The last echoes of their fears dissipated, leaving behind an echoing silence, the silence of liberation. They found themselves standing on solid ground, the sky above brightened significantly, washed free of the black clouds that once loomed. Trembling, the young woman looked around, seeing the faces of her friends, no longer marred by fear, but filled with clarity and purpose. "I can't believe we did it," one of her friends breathed, disbelief mingling with relief. "Yes," she exclaimed, warmth spreading through her heart. "We faced the darkness and reclaimed our truth." "It's more than just survival," her sister said, stepping alongside her, shimmering with newfound energy. "It's a new beginning, a chance to honor what once was while shaping what could be." They stood together, gazing out across the horizon, the remnants of ash stirred beneath the gentle breeze. New life unfolded around them, a testament to resilience. Trees began to unfurl their leaves into vibrant greens, flowers burst into colors previously hidden, and a new era dawned. "Together, we can write our story," the young woman affirmed, her voice steady, filled with promise. "Let us build our future, not bound by the past, but empowered by everything we've endured." With hands united, they breathed in the cool, fresh air, the weight of their histories transformed into a foundation for growth. They stepped forward into the light as a new beginning shimmered on the horizon. Let the world know they were no longer just survivors but the architects of a brighter tomorrow. As they walked toward their new dawn, something stirred. Within the earth beneath them, a whisper of untold stories yet to be discovered, waiting to inspire the next chapter of humanity's relentless journey. Now, it's your turn to impact this movement. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this unforgettable ending.